Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Bite-Size Branding Live show. We have an awesome show put together for you guys today. I think it's probably the most intimidating show that we've ever done. We've got the experts in. We've got the masters of podcasts. They might not go live, but they definitely know how it's done. So we're ready and very excited to hear everything that they have to share with us. Obviously, if you're looking to set up a podcast, you're looking to set up something like this, hopefully you'll walk away from today's show with a bit of really cool information about how to get it done. And then if you want to talk to the experts, obviously, we got them right with us. Tim and Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, really excited.
Great. And you might have noticed Tim was like a last minute intake into the show. So we're super pumped to have him here. It's one of Grant's connections. So another man from Melbourne, which is fantastic. Thanks everyone for jumping on the show already. And we've already got a little love heart. How good's that? Yeah, MotorCons, way to go. So I'll shoot it over to Grant now. Grant, give everyone a little bit of insight on how the show works.
Hi everyone, and my name is Grant Tom, and within the advertising and marketing industry, I'm known as a head fire starter. And what that means actually is when you've got an idea, you want to get something to grow, then you ask me, and we come up with ingenious ideas on how we at 𝐏𝐫𝐸 come about making sure that these things come alive. We like building brands, we like building companies, we like making sure that things start to sell. So welcome guys, welcome to the show. The whole show is about talking about a subject in 5 minutes or more, and what we tend to do is we tend to debate them, we tend to butt people out. But at the end of the day, it's all about putting good content forward. When we have a guest, we put on 2 extra minutes just to allow a little bit of breathing space and making sure that we get clear put our point across. I just want to say early in the show today that this is an edutainment piece, and that when edutainment is about education, getting entertainment. And I'm going to say it early because I forgot about it in the last 2 shows. And we're not going to forget about it now because we've got the 2 masters, Ryan and Tim, in the studio with us. And once again, they know how to do it on the fly. They've got the right equipment and they've got the right expertise, and they've been doing it for a while. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so thank you. A little bit of background. So Grant, in every show since we started, we're at 60-something shows, has said the word edutainment every single show. Somehow he's wrapped it in perfectly until last time's show. The last show, for some reason, it never came out. And until the last minute, I was like, mate, we never said the word edutainment. So he's just throwing it in early. I feel like that's cheating, though. I feel like it's cheating. But all that said, let's get to know the guys, I guess, a little bit in a little bit more detail. Mate, Tim, I might throw it to you first. Thank you so much for joining us. Give us a little bit of background around what you guys do and why you got in the podcast game.
Yeah, so I work with my clients primarily to produce about 1 to 3 months worth of video content in 45 minutes of their time. How I do that is through a structured interview, and we go away and we find all the best bits about you, talking about the best bits about your business, putting you up on a podium so that you can go away and stop worrying about freezing in front of the camera, right? So we all have done the recording where we script something out and we plan it and we spend 2 hours doing that. And then we spend another 2 hours setting up the equipment and the lighting and all of that. But we stumble over our words and we don't become authentic. And where this fits in with podcasting is my business actually started off the back of the podcast. So I'm a host of one as well. And essentially interview people like Jim Penman of Jim's Mowing, Jim's Cleaning, Jim's Everything. Had him on twice. And podcasting is the vehicle that I believe can help people produce loads of really valuable content, but also distribute it on, the trending platforms like TikTok, Instagram Reels, and all of that. And yeah, that's what I do. And the fundamentals was in a podcast. So I'm excited to be talking about it, but also the portability. I bought my microphone with me. I'm up in Sydney at the moment. I've actually got two softbox lights set up on me. I don't have my normal setup, but that's a good comparison because Ryan, he does. It's a good comparison to look at, well, this is what can be done on a portable setup. But that's me. I'll pass over to Ryan.
Cool, mate. Thanks for that. And Ryan, I see you've got your virtual background on because that couldn't really be your house. Mate, Ryan, tell us a little bit of your background too.
Sure. Well, I got into podcasting to help people. It was an extension of what I was doing in the photo and video space, having worked in the travel and tourism area, and kind of taking some of those skills and knowledge and applying it to video. And I thought, how can I help people a bit more here? How can I provide the information? So that's where I started off with my podcast, The Digital Approach. And essentially it's designed to help people remove the overwhelm and grow their business and their marketing in the digital space. So it brings people on to connect with them and say, it doesn't have to be this hard. And from there, I just fell in love with podcasting. It was the space that I wanted to be in. And I thought, I've got the skills, I've got the experience, I've got the knowledge for it, as well as my background in the strategy and the digital marketing side of it. So I was able to kind of implement all of that and bring it together to help people create their podcasts and give them a turnkey solution to getting their podcast set up and their production running.
I see some real synergies between your motivators between the two of you. And then, Tim, what was the name of your podcast?
Yeah, it's called The Expert's Blueprint.
Expert's Blueprint. Yeah, cool. And then a question for both of you, because I feel like I think it's back to front for the two of you, right? So Tim, you started the podcast, which then created the brand. And then Ryan, you started the brand that became the podcast. Is that how it worked?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. That's awesome, because then we've got the two perspectives. And I think what's really cool is that with both your approaches, you approached it with the same kind of mindset in place, the same kind of vision in place, which was it doesn't have to be as hard as it's made out to be. And that there is a way to kind of set it up, do it right, and build that audience, build that followership without making it bigger than Ben-Hur, which is a reference that I feel like most of our audience wouldn't even get. Awesome, guys. Let's jump into the questions. Everyone ready to go? I'm giving my clocks like shut up and start.
Right, here we go.
Cool. So look, the first question is, and Tim, you were right on this, which was all about how to get set up, choose the right equipment, choose the right location. I was talking to Ryan a bit about this before as well. What are the choices that you should be making, and how does that impact the show and the audience when you're trying to build it? And do you go gun ho and get it all, or is there a way to kind of build up into the podcast space? If you're ready to go, I'll hit the timer.
The classic case of this is people overthink the equipment all the time. They think they need the $20,000 budget to look like a professional YouTube channel or TV show. But in reality, you don't have to spend $50,000, but you do have to spend some money. So what it is looking at your budget that you feel comfortable with and spending on that. I would prioritize things like audio, and I prioritize things like lighting. And then if you can, video. So I started my podcast with this. Literally, I just used these two recorders up here. I stuck it, me, guest, in between us.
What is that?
This is Zoom H5 recorder. This also gave me the ability to, when I upgrade, to then plug in the microphone that Ryan has, right? But I didn't start with all of this stuff. But then once I got the momentum going and I got budget and, funding, then I upgraded my gear to 2 camcorders. So, but you can see, if you go back to my very first episode, it is awful. It is so bad. It's overexposed by t-shirts riding
up. We can all say that, right? We can all
say that.
Yep.
But you don't get to the good equipment and the $20,000 budget unless you start. And so many people go, okay, now I need to buy the $5,000 DSLR mirrorless camera. Oh, now I need 2 of them. Geez, all of a sudden my budget's blown out to 10 grand and I've only bought one thing. But reality is I look at every single budget. So online, what I have now, I've got a webcam, I've got a Rode NT USB Mini, which is $130. I've got 2 softbox lights that's lighting me up, and I think I'm sounding pretty passable, right? This whole setup probably cost me about $300.
Jesus.
Right? Now you can do what Ryan. Yeah. So that's my answer to equipment is. You don't have to spend $20,000, but if you do have the budget, yes, get the setup that Ryan has. I have that at home. But the good comparison here is I've spent $300 and I still sound and look passable, if not better. And I could improve it. I could have the microphone closer to me, and I know all of that stuff, right? But
Wow.
For a portable setup, I'm in Sydney away from my home, and I've like hired an office space here that I can be in. $300, you know,
Perfect.
and that's where you get started. Yeah,
Yeah.
We hear the
Yeah.
exact same Facebook with the exact same feedback. Sorry, all our clients say, everyone always says, the audio is what runs it, right? Because that's what they're really paying attention to. Like, it's nice that you look nice, but if I can't understand what you're saying,
I can't hear you.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Bernard. Is like the portable setup that Tim's got. I've got pretty much the exact same thing. I've got a Rode NT USB sitting in the drawers down there for when I'm on the go, and basically this setup is great because it's permanently mounted to my desk most of the time, so it's easy to set up. But on the go, and both of you have kind of touched on this, is this setup's great, but I only bought it once I started getting into podcasting more and understood the equipment that I needed, and then as I got used to that, I kind of retired the NT USB Mini to travel exclusive, and then Bernard, what you said is like focusing on the audio quality. If you think about podcasts, primarily they are an audio platform. Yeah, there's obviously a lot of video stuff happening now, and something like 70% of podcasts are being found through YouTube now as well. So video is becoming more and more important. But when you have the right audio, that's the key factor, especially, you know, having produced videos for years, is people will switch off if they can't hear you, but they will stay listening if they can see, if they can't see you.
Yeah, 100%. I say this all the time. People will forgive bad video. They'll never forgive bad audio.
Yeah.
You can have the $10,000 red camera running, but then if your audio doesn't work, you're in trouble.
Yes.
But you could have a grainy phone, and if the audio and the message is still good, it can perform. Some of my best performing videos on TikTok, I got a video hit 3.9 million views, right? That video is nothing special. It's actually a really grainy image of my cat that I then zoomed in, but because the audio created a message, that's what made it successful. And yeah, 100%. Like, it's so awesome, Ryan, that there's someone similar to me who also has that portable setup. Like, thank you. I love the setup that you've got as well. That static one that's always there. Like, as you progress, you get that. And there's Ryan's setup's fantastic. The microphone sounds great. His image is clear. Like,
so can I ask, Ryan, what are you running right now? Do you know what you've
So the mic is a Rode pod mic plugged into a Rodecaster Pro.
Yeah, okay. And how much does that kind of setup run usually?
With the boom arm, I think it's like $1,100-$1,200.
Yeah, okay. So
still in the grand scheme of things, it's not, you know, it's not hugely expensive. Like, one of the camera bodies that I use is a Canon R5, and that body alone costs $6,500.
Yeah.
Then all the lenses and the extra body on top of that. So when it comes to high quality audio, there's just a huge difference between, you know, camera and audio.
Yeah, I was actually, when you were saying that, when the both of you were talking about audio quality, I remember signing up for a training course, and I got into the training course, and the visuals were all decent. The audio was like inaudible. And I was sitting there going, like, number one, how do you sell this? Like, how do you respect yourself enough to actually sell the product? Number two, I can't even understand what the hell I just bought. I'm like trying to listen. I'm like squinting near this, like, if I can't understand it this close to the computer, like, clearly something's wrong. And then you start looking at the comments underneath the videos in the training course, and it's like, can't understand a word. This is terrible. And that's what really mattered to people. Like, they didn't care about the visuals. They cared about the audio, you know?
Yep. Especially in training courses and things as well.
Conversations on Zoom or anything like that, people want to pick up the information because they're after the information. Because if I can't get the information, I'll spend my time doing something else with, because I've got lots of things that I need to do.
Mate, so we've cancelled Zoom calls because we can't understand each other. We're just like, look, just call me on the phone, and we just shut off Zoom and we pick up the phone and we're like, okay, cool, now I can hear you. What were we saying? Okay, cool, yeah, good. You know,
and that affects your sales process, right? Because if you in sales, it's just about you transferring your excitement to someone else. If you can't be heard, they're going to switch off and see you later. That the sale goes down the drain.
Sure, very much so.
Do you love the alarms?
You're in a room of professionals. Great. We all ended on time. Like,
so probably, yeah.
Well, Grant told me a lesson. I went to reschedule, and he was like, and then I was like, oh no, sorry, I made a calendar mistake. And I met with him the day before. He's like, Tim, you know, something I was told was when you say you're going to make it at a time, you'll be there. So yeah, I'm doing the same thing with this timer, Grant.
And you got schooled. Grant came in there and just
yeah. Oh, I needed it. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Grant, did you want to wrap up anything that you picked up from?
Look, I think that the takeaway at this particular segment is that you don't need a lot of money. You know, you just got to get started. You just got to get into the routine, the repetitive nature of just setting up your equipment. But at the end of the day, it's about capturing the story. It's about capturing the essence of the information that makes it valuable, that someone wants to participate, wants to view, and wants to take away some information. So great segment.
I think what I love was when Tim said, like, even if you don't relate it to sales, you just relate it into connecting with people in general. There's a level of excitement that you're transferring. And if that doesn't transfer, whether it's your audio, whether it's the video, like whatever it is, the qualities, whether it's just dysfunctional, you know, like we've had some shows that have been compared to dysfunctional, you lose it. Like people just lose that connection and they disconnect.
Well, look at the fact, like I could have done this episode today in a hotel. Right. But I noticed over the few days that I was at the hotel that Wi-Fi was slow. There was echo happening all the time and there was a delay. I knew that I had this podcast on. So I go to the extra length of hiring out a room and a space that I can do this in because I understand that process. And it's the same thing with your audio. The real opportunity is most people won't bother.
Yeah.
Most people, and that's not my quote. That's Stephen Thomas's quote. Most people would have done this interview in their hotel room. But instead, because I understand audio, understand a message, I've gone, well, no, it makes sense to set up a little bit. And it's the
audience appreciates it as well. Like, you know, you've got a sound dampened room. You know, you can hear a lot of echo in some audios and things that kind of rattles around a room, and it loses a little bit of the impact because there's even a psychological side of it that if you sound professional and you sound good, people are more likely to trust you. And that's the most important thing coming from a podcast, right behind the story and the connection with the guest.
Big time.
Awesome, guys. Make sure we stay on time. Next question number 2. Funnily enough, talking about the quality of a podcast, or more in particular for this question around an interview. We've had it before where we've brought on a guest and they just didn't really bring it. Do you have any suggestions on how you turn around like a mundane or a, you know, slightly?
Well, how do you get like the best out of a guest? You know, in the sense that sometimes people freeze up, sometimes people get overwhelmed, sometimes people get totally lost in the story, and you've got to keep them on track. What are your tricks that you use to get the very best out of people? And I'm sure you've had dozens and dozens of different types of people, and you're going to have to adjust with a view to get the best. What would you do?
And then another question that I kind of had that came off that was, do you see the audience also react to that? Like, do you see a direct correlation with the quality of that interview that, you know, impacts the audience? I'll hit this time out. Tim is eager, so let's go.
He's ready.
So I do a lot in the pre-interview. So I do about a 15-minute chat with people before I do a podcast sometimes, or I've met them before. So Grant's going to come on my show in a week's time or so.
Oh, cool.
However, the thing is, you need to ask for specifics. When someone gives an example, the most interesting bits of a podcast doesn't come from your first question. It comes from you listening to what the person is saying and then asking another question off the back of that. I've got a quote that I got on the back of my wall at home. It's a conversation is sparked by genuine curiosity. Yeah. If you go into interviews being genuinely curious about that other person and realizing that your second, third, fourth questions are actually the most important ones, that's how you actually get the most out of the thing. I've done interviews. I was a guest, an engineer was interviewing me, and he was such an engineer about it. He had all of his questions written on a bit of paper, and I could see him just going from question to question to question. It felt like an interview. Yeah. It felt like an interview. It felt like, and ironically, that's what. Ironically, but it's not an interrogation, and that's where you get a bad. That's where you get, and your audience does notice it. Your audience does notice it because any good podcast makes the listener feel like they are there. It makes them feel like they're part of the conversation. So you cannot get there if you are so scripted and all of that. I'm going to stop.
I agree with that.
I'll let Ryan jump in.
Yeah. So I did an interview recently with Tom Schwab, who runs a company in the US called Interview Valet. And he came on the podcast and we got talking about how an interview should flow, you know, the benefits of guesting and all that sort of stuff, but how an interview should flow. And what we did was just ended up diving into a conversation about conversation. And like what Tim said, you know, pre-work stuff is great. You know, I do the same thing. I have a 15-minute conversation with someone on Zoom. I'll say, look, this is the topic that I want to focus on. What can we ask to get the best out of you? What's going to help you be the best guest on here? And trying to sort of lead up to the pre-work, and I'll script a few questions beforehand as a guide. But like what Tim said, the conversation has to flow and diving deeper after the answer of every question. So, you know, like what Tim said is what was it? It was that, you know, your pre-work that you do, the 15-minute conversation, you're asking them questions. So what type of questions are you asking them to help get the best out of them? And then your answer kind of provides a deeper question than that, and deeper. So you're really sort of digging down into a niche rather than just going broad spectrum.
I think people overanalyze this. When I did my first interview with Jim Penman, I gave him 3 dates. He said, "Oh yeah, come back to me with 3 dates and I'll do that." I was cheeky. I put a date a week from now, and then 2 weeks, and then 4 weeks. He picked the one that was a week from now. So here's me, a 23-year-old kid, going to interview one of Australia's largest franchise owners.
Yeah.
I had a week. Guess how much research I did? I didn't do a lot of research. I listened to a few of his podcasts. I knew a little bit about him. I went in with no question prepared. And I just sat down there and I just asked him stuff that I was genuinely interested in. And that started the conversation. So what I could have done is I could have gone the other way and I'd done a whole bunch of research, and that would have made me even more nervous. I'm already nervous. I was 23 at the time, right?
Yeah.
So over preparation is sometimes the enemy. Yes, we need to understand and have a few questions in the background. And I did my research. I listened to podcasts that he'd been on. But if I'd over prepared, it would have been a terrible interview. And that's for my style as well. Some people do need those questions, but you can go the other way.
Yeah, I think like the best advice I ever got was from my dad, and his English is very much a distant second language for him, and he used to present at architectural courses at UNSW, and I didn't know this. And one day he tells me out of the blue, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to go present at UNSW." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I've been doing it for 10 years." I'm like, "What? Since when have you done this?" And he said, "Son, nobody in that room knows what I'm about to say better than I do. So whatever I say is what they're going to hear, right? So only you are the only person who identifies whether or not a mistake is made."
Correct.
You know?
Yep.
And that's how I've always approached everything after that point. So people are like, "Wow, you're so good at presenting." And literally I walk onto the stage, like I feel anxious and I feel everything. I walk onto stage and the first thing I tell myself is nobody in this room knows what I'm going to say better than I do. And then I just go on the stage. And Grant and I used to pre-record this show, and it was a mess. We used to trip over each other. We would like we'd just miss out things. We would re-record it. We would cut it up. Then we would there was all this post-production that was done. It was ridiculous. And I said, then we had this conversation. We said, "You know what? Let's just do it live. Like, who cares? Like, we know what we want to talk about. Let's go live. Forget the bullet points. We'll have a couple questions and we'll just run it." And since that day, it's been such a nicer project. The back and forth time is so much more minimal, and getting guests on is so much easier.
And also the content being very authentic.
Yeah.
We're dealing with very authentic content. It's natural, it's responsive, it's you know your subject. So therefore, you just work within the space that you've got, and you just present what you know without worrying about what people see, because it's what you know that is important.
Yeah. And the other thing with in pre-work is kind of the best way to do this. And Tim, jump in here in a sec, because I'm sure that you'll have a thought on this. But pre-work is the best. But even when you get guests that do freeze up and get nervous, I'll usually because my podcasts are pre-recorded, they're not live streamed. Fortunate for some of my guests, but I'll just sort of stop and coach them and rephrase questions so that they give the answer that's going until the question really clicks with them. And they're not scripted questions. You know, sometimes there's a bit of a guide to come back to, but the non-scripted questions are always ones that you can just pause for a second, have a conversation with them, say, what are you trying to do here? And then get the answer from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. I've got 10 seconds. So I think that being able to reassure someone and having the joke of, haha, that's what editing's for, is really cool because then they relax.
Yeah. Man, the tension. I don't know, Grant, if you remember the tension that used to build around, okay, man, we've got to sit down. We've got to do 5 videos. And we're sitting there and we're like, okay, what are we going to talk about? Okay, cool. We agree. We press play. And then I get like 2 seconds into the video. I'm like, hi, my name is, and then I say something stupid. Like I don't pronounce my name correctly. I say Assad, or something stupid. And then we're like, okay, stop. Let's try that one again.
But even that there, Bernard, like, if you went Bernard, and you kept that in there, and you're like, oh, how silly! Like that would make people laugh, right? And when authenticity gets thrown around a lot these days, oh, be authentic. What does that actually mean? Well, what that actually means is having the courage to make mistakes and keeping it in your videos. Yeah. You know, having the courage that when your kid walks in and going, oh, that's all right. I've had my phone go off. I've interviewed a Paralympian. And my phone went off and I was like, oh my God, this is the second time that's happened. That's all right. Someone will laugh at this. It'll be the funniest bit of the podcast. Right. And I keep that stuff in there because that's authenticity, not the buzzword be authentic. You know, and that's
what we love about this show, right? There's no holds barred. Like everyone says what they're going to say and that's it. Like there's no retakes. The only downside is when the technology fails us. We've had shows that only like half the show gets recorded and pushed out live, and we're like, no.
I could give you a really funny example of a mistake I've made if we have time, but I mean, I'll go to the next question. That's all right.
Mate, I don't think we can say no to that. We've got to know. Give us the.
No, we've got to know. We just got to know.
Yeah, so, you can't drop that and be like, oh, later.
Last week, I'll do it really quickly. Last week, I flew up to Brisbane to do an interview with James Whitaker and Noel Whitaker. Noel has a weekly column in the Age. James flew over to America and he's got limited amount of time in Australia, but he spent the time with me. I did the interview with James and then I had this really funny feeling during it. I was like, oh, did I hit the record button? Like, what's happened? And I just got up and I checked. And in flight, what had happened in flight is the settings on my camera changed to what's called S and Q. And S and Q automatically changes the frame rate to 100, so slow-mo. And then it also stops the recording. So I'd recorded with James for an hour and a half of this podcast interview. This was last week on S and Q. So I've got this file of James like talking like this. And this is a guy that his time is very valuable. So that was embarrassing. But I then referenced that we then reshot for half an hour. I referenced that in the other one. And we had a joke about it and a laugh about it. Turning those mistakes into funny content is actually, but so many people freak out and they go, oh no, I need to start again. Well, yes, I needed to start again because the file is literally unusable. But that's
times we wanted to do blooper reels. Like Grant and I already thought about, let's do a blooper reel. Like there are so many funny screw
that
ups
clock.
there.
Let me tell you, that clock has caused us more drama than we can count.
Yeah, it's really humanization.
I was like, I didn't bring my stand with me. So right now I'm actually using another camera to stand my phone on it.
Well, and that's a lesson in itself. Use what you have. Like
for one time, that clock stopped working in the middle of, and we were talking for like 15 minutes, and then we're like, "Oh, the clock stopped. Oh, get the clock to work." We thought we had killed something. We repeated
the longest 7 minutes ever.
Shame.
Right. Question number 3. We got to get on to this show. We got to get on with the show.
Yeah. When you are telling stories and you're building up your audience, is there a lot of consideration that people should have around what channels they use and what platforms they produce or release the content on? And does that affect kind of their followership or their audience interaction based on which platforms they pick? Yeah, I'll hit the
So as we get in the clock, so basically I want to know, in the sense of hit the clock. I want to know, hit the clock. There we go. I want to know in the sense of where do people get the best viewing for the content? Because at the end of the day, it's all great. You do all this work and you do all this featuring and no one is getting to see the content. What is your suggestion for best viewing of content and reach?
Yeah.
If you can, oh, sorry, you go.
I'll start us off. The podcast platforms, they're designed for the full audio file. So, places like Apple, Spotify, and Google. Apple and Spotify are still the number one channels for podcasting. Google's trying, but who knows until how long they retire it in. That usually happens. So, releasing on Apple and Spotify, you've still got heaps of other places like iHeartRadio and Amazon and a whole bunch of others. Podchaser, those sorts of places, but in terms of getting it the most reach out of it, like the podcast is the place to go for the full content. You can upload the full video to YouTube. There's certain things with the YouTube algorithm around that, but then you start to look at breaking it down and content mapping out and how can you get the best out of it. So, you take say, for example, you've got a 60-minute interview that's about 10,000 words. If you get that transcribed, there's Google 2,000 words per blog post. So there's about 5 blog posts right there. There's quotes, there's video clips, there's audiograms, there's episode covers, all that sort of stuff. You can just break it down and start to put it out on the platforms like social media that your audience is actually hanging out in. So, if your audience is on Facebook, share to Facebook as your primary platform. If they're on LinkedIn, share to LinkedIn as the primary platform.
Yeah. So if you've got the ability to record video, put that up on YouTube. You've got the full thing. You've also then could rip that audio and chuck it on Spotify and iTunes. That's a given. That's 101. But what I say to people, unless you're Barack Obama, LeBron James, or Oprah Winfrey, nobody is going to care about your 45-minute podcast. It does not matter how great your content is. No one's going to care about it, right? But what they will care about is the 7-second, 15-second, 45-second bit of gold that you've just said or your guest has said that you can then deploy on the most trending thing that's going on in video at the moment, which is Instagram, Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and LinkedIn video, right? You deploy the 7-second, the 30-second bit of nugget, and they will care about it. You deploy another one, and they'll get more interested. You deploy another one, oh, geez, maybe I will go check out the 45-minute episode, right? That's what happens, so many people prioritize YouTube and Spotify, which it is correct to do, right? But that's 101. If you're not doing that, you don't have a podcast.
Yeah.
Again, going back to the real opportunities, most people won't bother. They chuck that episode out and then put the link on LinkedIn and go, here, listen to my show. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Put the 30-second thing out on TikTok, get 1 million views on that thing, and just watch it grow. Watch it back, link back. As I said, 3.9 million views on a simple video for free is absolutely ridiculous. And that's just the start of it. People are getting 60 million, 50 million, right? So the fact that you've got the opportunity to do that and playing within Instagram Reels, especially because they're trying to compete with TikTok. So their pricing strategy at the moment is to give away free views to people. I've put videos out on TikTok and Reels, same thing. 10,000 on Reels, 500 on TikTok.
Yeah. So, and that's Tim, can I just ask here for a second? On TikTok, your video with 3.9 million views. What was the result of that for you?
So that increased a lot of it was vanity metrics, right? So we can't really look at ROI. I can look at ROI because in sales calls, when I tell people I've got 3.9 million views, they start to listen to me, right? But in terms of value, my account grew from about 500 followers to 4,000, literally overnight within a week.
Yeah.
Right. That video has now been played all of those times, and it's now something I can talk about on podcasts, on interviews, in sales calls, demonstrate to people, because it wasn't anything special. The video wasn't anything special.
Yeah.
It was just using the techniques that I know about marketing and video and podcasting to actually get it to that point. And that was the actual return on investment. The return on investment is quite honestly the story that I can tell. I can't track return on investment to that one video, but I can track return on investment to the sales call that I did last week that landed because the guy said he wants to do more TikTok.
Yep.
So it's like a crazy.
I want to step in here for a second. So there was one of Tim's videos that he had played, and I saw it, and I told him
good story. Yeah.
Okay, and so I said to him, Tim, you can't put your typography on the video this way. It's got a negative connotation. Psychologically, it's very negative. Change it. So he did. He took the exact same video that I think he had about 300 views. Okay, and he reposted it, and this is a true story. Tim's there to see. He changed the direction of the text, and he got 3,800 views of the same video just by making sure that he changed the typography.
Wow.
Okay.
Yep.
It's about the presentation in the sense of how people receive it. If it's receiving it and it makes logical sense to their psyche, then suddenly it makes a big difference to the outcome of your viewing. And therefore, when you're placing it on these platforms, you want that reach, you want that impact, you want to make sure that you're building on that particular strategy.
Yeah, true story. I messaged Grant like as soon as it was happening. I was like, oh my God, all I did was the title rotation went from that way to that way, upwards versus negative. And I went, Grant, this is a game changer. You've just yeah. And
all his content has changed from there onwards. I've noticed Tim's content is now reading correctly and he's getting great value for it.
Indeed.
That's incredible.
Yep. Yeah, thank you, Grant. Like that was, and that was because I saw you walking by in Melbourne, and I ran out and I said hi.
That's exactly.
Yeah,
it's exactly that.
Awesome.
Look, we finished 8 seconds too quickly. Jeez.
Oh, we did.
We've done this before, by the way, that we finish on time. Like,
good job, team. Guys, what a awesome show. Grant, do you want to loop up anything that you any little golden nuggets?
You see by the quality of guests that we have today, in the sense of this is what they do on a regular basis. They are sitting calm, they're sitting relaxed, they know their subject. But at the end of the day, they're not stressed by the equipment and the outcome. They know that they have to show, they have to come tell a story, and they're there to unbundle the knowledge, and that all of us can get onto this particular platform with the view of extending the knowledge base and in widening your circle, with the view of making sure that you create engagement, you're creating repetition of content, you're creating content that is trending and tweaking according to how the trends are changing within your world, within your business. And I think that every single brand in business today needs a voice. And voice has become 40% of the communication channel. And I think these two gentlemen have demonstrated that today.
Thank you.
I don't really have much else to add there. I think the other thing is, for everyone that's listening, always think of how you can continue to use content. I think people always think, like, even when we talk about copywriting for a client, they think, I'm going to pay that much money just to have copy written on my homepage. I said, mate, if that's the only place you use it, yes, you're wasting your money. Like, if you've paid for this content to be written, repurpose it, write it into flyers, into brochures, into your proposals. Like, this is now professionally written quality content that can be repurposed over and over again. It's the same thing that you produce here. Like, whether or not it's professional, as long as the audio is good and the video is decent, repurpose it on every channel. Any channel that allows you to put audio and allows you to put visuals on there, put it. Like, why not? Why are you wasting it? We actually just recently, Grant, I don't know if I told you, but we signed up to a platform that allows, it's an aggregator, so it puts our content across multiple platforms. And we've stripped out the audio from all our original videos, and now have created an official bite-sized branding podcast for the show. So now I think there's a show that's going to go out every week to start off. So it's just going to ramp up the content really quick, and then we're going to have we're on Apple, on Spotify, and a couple other channels. So if people are listening, they want to hear us as a podcast, that's where the content is. It's now available. But yeah, for the exact same reason that you guys said, like, we've already prepped this content, we have already created it, so why aren't we putting it out to more channels?
Exactly, and utilize it time and time again.
Use your time twice. And so many people go, oh, what platform should I be on? Well, you should. TikTok isn't for me. It's just dancing kids. No, like, come on, guys. People are making big bucks on TikTok, growing their businesses. Like, don't get left behind. It was the same conversation with Facebook. Facebook isn't for my business, right? Whatever platform you can be on, distribute content for it.
Yeah.
You know, so many people just go, it's not for me. Well, it's not for you because you're going to miss the opportunity. That's why you missed the opportunity of Facebook. You missed the opportunity of YouTube. Why are you going to miss the opportunity of Instagram Reels and TikTok? For your podcast.
True. Very true.
And why are you going to miss the opportunity of podcast? We're still early on podcasting as well.
Yeah.
Right. So why are you going to miss that opportunity as well? I mean, you're already 5 years late. So hurry up.
Boy, that's beautiful. Just like a slap down from Tim. Guys, thank you so much. Obviously, I'm watching the timer, and I want you guys to get back to your days. And I know we all have things to wrap up. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us, watching the show. For anyone that's been watching, as always, please like, comment, share. We're always looking for new topics, always looking for new guests. So if you know anyone that might be interested on being on the show, that has something interesting to say, or you have something controversial that you want Grant to
we like controversial.
Yeah, Grant loves controversial. So boys, if you think of something later on and you're like, actually, this is really controversial, I wonder what they can do with this, shoot it our way.
I could have done more of those Smackdowns if you wanted me to. Maybe I'll do that.
Right, we'll just bring you on and just do a whole show of Smackdowns. We'll just call it
Smackdown show.
Yeah, done. Can you find another Smackdown, like your tag team partner for this WWE match, and then bring him in with you, and you just do Smackdowns for the whole.
I think so. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm down. Let's do that show. It's done. Book it in.
I'll get thinking.
Yeah, awesome. Tim, Ryan, you two are phenomenal. Thank you so much for all that information. This show was just fantastic. Like, I was sitting there going, oh, yeah, good, got it. Tell me more about that microphone. Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great Thursday afternoon. Grant, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say. Clearly, I've lost
I just want to say thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. And once again, come back to us. We'd love to have you. Definitely. And maybe you've got a challenging subject that we want to learn from. We're happy to receive you.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, gents. Pleasure to be on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
See you later.